How's it going, everybody? So this is going to be probably a very quick video, but I wanted to talk on the talents and what I think about them. Mostly more on the side of my grievances with talents. Nothing severe like this ruins the game, but there are some issues. Now, for our little demonstration here, we're going to use these lovely undead counts to show off what we're dealing with, just because they are level 10, which gives us all the points. Now, the way this works is a normal henchman unit. He does have some trained already, but he receives 4 less than usual, which does not give you a lot for a henchman. That gives you effectively 14 talent points, which for henchmen, not a big deal. They can only get basic skills anyway. So, you know, that gives you what? 7 abilities. So you fill out a lot of these. But the major grievance with, and also, leaders, major characters, they get 30 total. So, you know, it is quite a difference there. But that works as designed. I have no problems there. That does make sense. Now, every character does start with their own pre-built talents. That is a thing. I have no problem there. Some of them are pretty bad comparatively. That just does not add anything valuable that you can utilize. But the main issue with talents is that some of them are just not worth it in any scenario whatsoever. The main one I'm talking about is things like this here. Athletic Expert, giving you an increased chance to climb, leap, jump down test by 15. Sure. These, in theory, could be useful if you maybe build someone in heavy armor and you did somehow fill out the points to give them agility anyway. You could use this to really make it so they're not taking any excess damage, but the damage is so little that I ultimately don't think it is worth it. Now, if you look at it this way, unless you get the maxed version of it, the 15% is ultimately not all that much, because if you fail one climb, you get a flat 10%. This doesn't stack, but still, that makes this only worth 5%. It's still okay, but you have to remember you are very limited on what you're getting. With only 30 points, I don't think there's any real good reason to build this. Now, some of them are interesting. Here's another fantastic one. Acrobatic. When fleeing, increases melee resistance by 15 and 30%. This is a tough one. And I guess what ultimately is the problem is, even with a leader and a hero ending up with 30, the way it works is you pay 2 for the first rank, and then you pay 4 for the mastering of the skill, which is ultimately 6. So a max level hero or leader is only going to get you 5 maxed skills. That's not a lot. Now, some of these max skills are very, very impressive. We're not talking about Frenzy. This is for the sake of the challenge. Frenzy's one, I will definitely say, is a very good example. Increasing damage, that's good. Magic resistance, not really. Magic resistance is one of those things that you just don't build into, because it's very rare that that comes up in a PvE standpoint, which is the main focus of this. I think in PvP, maybe everything has its purpose except for acrobatic and athletic. That there's never a point that you would build these. Speaking of which, I have no idea why this is a 2-day training and 180 gold. No clue. It definitely does have that issue of, I think they tried to balance it around the money cost and the training time, which is fine, but only for campaigns that you end as soon as you beat the last mission. Is this anything important? I don't know what I would say to fix these in particular. Maybe if they boosted these numbers up to be maybe 30 and 60, perhaps. I still don't think I would ever pick this. It's too specific, too uneventful when you look at some of the other ones, which that happens in most games. They try to give you a broad variety of things to make it, you know, that you can pick anything you need. But there's never a scenario I would pick it in a game about making sure your characters don't whiff their swing. Why are you worried about them being able to climb for the turn? In the rare cases that it does make a difference, you saved 1 strategy point and maybe 10 health. That's not a huge difference. I don't think that is a way to go. And I think the problem ultimately comes down to you are limited on skill points and their skill point cost is too high. Now, I think reducing it to 1 and then 2 to like kind of effectively half it to master rank it, that might be a way to maybe entice people to get it, though I don't know if I would still get either of those in those scenarios. It's just a weird thing about all talents. Now, one thing I will give praise to is the passive and active. I do like that these are 2 separate to kind of force you into both. I am very guilty of this, but I heavily value passive skills. I will get 1, maybe 2 active skills depending on the character. Now this one's again a special character, but typically your best bet is always going to be Web of Steel or Sidestep for your parrying or dodging needs. It's rare that I go any other way. You can go for defensive stance. I feel that that one is okay. That is an interesting one. Though I will say definitely weaker unless you have a lone wolf kind of character, which is a thing I have not tried, but have been interested in trying. I really do think a lone wolf character could get away with a lot if you build them properly. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is each warband's very specific active ones. I really like these. I like that they're cheap. I like that they train quickly. Some characters really do not have great ones. Vampire counts or undead. I think they call them undead. I always call them vampire counts and I shouldn't, but you know, whatever. They're often really fun. Some of them are weaker than others. I think the sisters have a magic resistance, or I believe that's witch hunters. Either way, I never trained that either. I just don't see a purpose for those because they either have to be insanely busted to the point that you just completely negate magic to make it worth training, or it's just never going to be enough that I think you would ever do it with very, very few points. I am at this, the point of this video, trying out all these weird and unusual ones that I would never train because it's just rare for me to pick them. And I think the other major thing that happens with talents that gives me a lot of problem with picking these off ones is in order to get the points and the money, oftentimes your campaign has to be near the end and they have to be leveled up. It just makes it really hard to want to commit into strange or unusual things in most cases. Now, I am forcing myself to do that lately, and maybe there will be an update to this video when I find out the other ones. I don't want to say these are awful ones, except for, you know, these 2 are just awful. Some of these are interesting, like this one, giving you a ton of hit chance with an ambush. That's useful, but not the best one, as they are only usually going to happen once, and then you're mostly stuck in for the rest of it. They could help, and I am going to do a build around that. We will see where we go with that. Yeah, just some of them are a little strange and hard to commit. And ultimately, again, it just ends up, there's a lot of potential fun, but it takes too long to get there that these feel worth it. This one's very specific. You know, after a successful dodge, increases chance to hit for a counterattack. Very strange. Most characters in the late game, at least for me, you know, I don't have issues with hit chance. Now, I think maybe this is one for a heavy crit character that you might not have a lot of weapon skill. Maybe that's the idea. But then you're waiting on the defensive, hoping you do dodge and you need sidestep. I am not sure about this one. Not really a fan. Now this one's interesting. Quick draw. Very, very strange. Especially for it being a 270 gold 3-day and then a 5-day training. That is a huge commitment just to switch weapons. Now, maybe they needed an expensive one to put up here. I don't see the value in this. I really do not. You could have it, you know, maybe that's something I have to try. but even just reading it, I can say that what this brings for its commitment is a little much. When you can take much safer bets, like if they have a sword and shield on, shield specialist is amazing value every step of the way. As melee resistance is just an unbelievable stat. You can never go wrong with melee resistance. How do you not pick it? And I don't have a correct answer for you there. Just something interesting to note with the talent. And here's the main point that I have a problem with the talents. It is not for the player. You can build anything you want. It may be a wrong build, but you can build it. What ends up happening is the AI will look when you fight them at what you bring and will try to counter it. Now, what ultimately happens is they will build counters to things that make no sense. If you have a lot of casters, they will build resist magic, which does counter your spellcasters. That's cool. I mean, that's great, but now they've just wasted their points instead of getting better weapons or just building more melee resistance, which would very much be better for you. Another major one that happens to me frequently, I will often have 3, sometimes 4 ranged in my warbands. They see that and immediately start building into active abilities and defensive abilities in order to dodge it. There it is, careful approach. They will use this very, very frequently just to counter my ranged. And mastered version is a 40% resistance. That is a lot. However, you know, they just committed all the points. They're wasting talents. It just makes the AI make some weird calls that I'd never see. Speaking of, here's Wall Runner. Very, very strange. I have no idea what this ability is. It's cool, I guess. I guess you're just risking the chance to take damage for a height. I've never built this. I don't see what the value is. But it is just something weird. Again, there's swift jump, quick leap. I don't see how saving 1 strategy point is worth it. That's too specific, too rare to be paying this. Yeah, just strange talent points. I don't even think I've seen the AI ever build this either. I would be interested to see it, but they just don't build it. What can you do? Definitely a thing that I wanted to talk about because it's so strange. And ultimately, the main point is the AI mess it up every time to counter you when they shouldn't, because it doesn't help them as much as you think it would. And secondly, it takes much too long to build a character with these talents to really try and use them. It's hard to want to commit the money unless you already have a filthy rich warband with a A team already done, fully geared, fully leveled, and then you just build a B team for messing around. Perhaps that works. But I think for the fun of the game, it should definitely be something that's a little earlier, in my opinion. Of course, this is a game not getting updates at this point. But I think that's where there was a real misstep with talent points. Is some of them are just too specific and probably needed to be bumped up. And they definitely needed to make these available earlier. Maybe have a huge gold cost to unlearn skills and get the points back. And I mean absurd gold costs, but at least it was an option. I don't know. But I think that's really the issue with talent points. And that's it. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to keep rambling on about it. You guys can let me know what you think, but I wanted to talk on it as, you know, I really don't get a chance to build them until level 10, which I think is a shame.